Hello and welcome to LOPR Radio Aftershock for WWE Money in the Bank 2020 in one of the most unique pay-per-views of the year, I think it's fair to say. Who climbed the corporate ladder? This is obviously Aftershock live immediately following Money in the Bank from WWE's Performance Center and headquarters. We are live on both Spreaker and on YouTube. Again, because of the world around us, I'm currently just in a crappy picture form of right the year now, which kind of sucks, but it's kind of what I'm working with. But I'll be going through the show as it goes in lovely audio form. There is a live chat feature on Spreaker, which I now and then remember to check, and there's also a live feature on obviously YouTube and whatever. So we could get through that way. Anyway, we're going through the pay-per-view in mostly match order, but I do want to start off with the main events, the Money in the Bank ladder matches. That's what everybody's here for. Blast through that, and then if you don't care about anything else, you can go to sleep. So, as a British person, going live at 2:45 in the morning, oh, what a marvel. The dream of it, where I'm at a time in the night where I can read my notes, where because I've done so much today, I am physically knackered, but I can actually read my notes. I've got energy left. Insane, it's crazy. It's mental. I'm not used to this. I'm used to going live at 4 a.m. when my eyes are blurry. I can't read crap. I've written thousands of words of notes and I normally can't read them. But this is such a nicely, tightly knit pay-per-view. Like, I'm talking about the pay-per-view as a whole, like Money in the Bank as a entire show. It was, for me, it felt like it absolutely blew by, but most of that is because of how long shows have been recently, and this was such a nice treat to be this short. It was like a tightly knit little package, and I just blasted through it, and I loved it, and it was great, and now I get to talk about it in an excited voice, where hopefully this show kind of mirrors that, where it's just tightly knit, blast through everything, get across how much I enjoyed it, then go to bed. So, next up, it's the first bloody thing I'm talking about. Immediately dying. So, again, because we are live, if you do have any feelings and things you want to get across, type them into the chat. I'll likely read them out. If you're on Spreaker as well as the speech bubble thing, you can click on and you can do it that way. Most people will be watching on YouTube. That's how the numbers go, but I like to get it out there. Anyway, the Money in the Bank ladder matches. These were so up my street. I've been really enjoying the cinematic main events that they've been doing. They add a unique feeling, makes them feel kind of different and big, I guess is a crappy way to explain it. But because in the empty arena environment, you can really struggle to make a main event really feel like a main event match. They ironically achieved that tonight anyway, with Seth Rollins McIntyre, I thought. But the fact that these main events are so different from the rest of the match, like, very distinctly makes them, like, in a way where you can hype them up and go, right, this is our main event, we're going to cut to this and then the show. And I personally like that. If you're somebody who is into hardline technical wrestling, or your ideal of a great wrestling show is in-ring showing the best showcase you can, then this is not for you. This is silly fun. This is DDT in Japan doing silly fun things. Like AEW did it this week in their main event, just a fun brawl about a place. And that's certainly what this was as well. Full with nonsense cameos and moments and silly little quips and moments. But yeah, so let's go through the match, like, kind of in order of what notes I've got. Keeping in mind so much happened that I will have missed things. A lot of these notes will be things that just caught my eye that I enjoyed before we jump to the next thing. Also, keeping in mind, when you're writing notes, it's pretty difficult to keep in your head the things that are happening whilst you're writing the notes. So we'll see how it goes. So anyway, first off, yes, God yes, everybody gets a video game entrance. Yes, stats on screen as they deliver a quick quip and everything. Daniel Bryan's, here we go! Everybody ready for a fight? That bit got me. I happily admit that made me laugh. Like, immediately, I am just like, oh, yes. Already brimming. It was immediately cutting between both matches as they played out with battle music. Women starting in front of the lobby elevators, the men walking round a corner in the gym for some reason. I had so many comedy spots in my head That Asuka diving off of the balcony and dancing sure was a start that I was happy with. Smart Asuka in the elevator, continuing to dance as well. Just like, yes, that's the perfect start for the women's match. I was all in with that one. The men, they kicked off a brawl in the gym. Corbin threw a clock into a mirror and he went pale, seemingly realising he damaged company property. Otis, not as much as he repetitively rammed AJ's head into a towel dispenser, going, "Oh yeah!" But you know, in his voice, "Oh yeah!" I can't do it. I don't know what I sound like. He then pinned AJ with some weights. Styles was hilarious here. The other lads just brawled about all over the place. Rey Mysterio refused to help AJ Styles. He was just like, "Rey, help me, Rey, help me." Into the toilets they brawled. We got our very first cameo as Rey Mysterio came upon Bruce Pritchard, who just came out the toilet stall like, "I love you." Rey quick quips, "Love you too, but I gotta go." You know, but less British politeness in the more awkward delivered line before you move on to the next thing. And back to the main brawl as four lads end up in the same elevator. I'm assuming Rey got in one by himself or went his own way. Back to the women, scrapping up the stairs. They made their way to the elevator area. The men's one arrives and opens. And in terms of timing between the two segments, it's a little bit weird trying to figure it out, but it doesn't really matter. So the women brawl to the elevators. The men's arrived first. Yeah, so that's what I mean by the times don't add up. If they started at the same time, maybe it makes sense. So we watched one, then we watched the other, then they can join at the same time. But if the women's was first, then it was the men's. Then that means Asuka's elevator's taking forever. So the women brawl to the elevators. The men's arrives opens. They brawl out of the elevator. There's like half of a wrestling ring kind of just there as the floor, and they start brawling into that. And the women kind of have their own little mini thing as well. Asuka's then arrives and it opens, and she looks out to what the chaos that's happening and just kind of hides in a really smart way. Smart Asuka, what this match was. It's like, I'm not gonna get into this. I'm just gonna, smartly avoid trouble. With all the balls going on, Aleister Black kind of finds himself out of it as well, and he realises they're all distracted and he could just piss off. So he does. Daniel Bryan kicks everyone to hell and follows off. Office Doink then crept up from behind a chair. That was the gag. Off he went. Nia, Carmella, Dana Brooke and Baszler brawled into a meeting room where there's obviously a steel chair. Things happen. And there's a Money in the Bank briefcase hanging in the middle. Dana Brooke pulls it down and does a little cheer. Steph cuts the music. Stephanie McMahon walks in. It's like, this is a meeting room, ma'am? Carmella then smashes a picture over Dana Brooke. So you just pulled down a Money in the Bank briefcase. It's like, no, it's on the roof, Duck. We told you it's... Okay, then. We then cut to one of my favourite parts of the match of this is when we went to AJ Styles' Adventures. AJ's looking around for his foes and he finds a picture of The Undertaker. He's like, oh my god, not The Undertaker. And he then finds a blue lit room with a casket inside, and it gives him flashbacks of the horror of WrestleMania. Aleister Black turns up, kicks him in the head, and shuts the door, whilst AJ shouts, no. Assumably, because we don't ever cut back to it, AJ Styles just opened the door and walked out. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was quite... It ended on a comedic note. Because after that, we cut to Paul Heyman, sat about to dig into some lunch. As we found out, it's at a massive buffet kind of table, and it was just him sitting down to eat food by himself. Take out of that what you will, if that was important or not. But then the Stampede arrives. Women on the left, men on the right. Otis is enraged by the whole situation, and he hypes up and shouts, "Food fight!" And he just throws food all over Heyman. Get an Aleister Black reaction shot of all people. Maybe they did everyone, and he was just the best one. Everyone joins the food fight. And obviously, as you would know how food fights normally play out, Shayna Baszler choked out Rey Mysterio in a sentence I wasn't expecting to type. Everybody brawls with food all over the place. The floor is ruined. You want a sandwich? Otis asked off camera. Am I doing Yogi Bear for Otis? I don't really know. Who really cares on those? Nia Jax ends the fun by powerbombing Carmella through a table and staring as music plays of, oh, we've just witnessed a dominant turn in this match. I mean, it fit the comedy of it, and it was like a final punching note, but okay. We then got an awkward bit where after the powerbomb, she kind of walked up to Otis, stared at him, and then Otis was eating with his mouth open, and they both went their separate ways. Kind of like a stare down, like, yeah, we're going to go now. I didn't know if they were playing off weight or something with that spot there. I was just thinking, why else is this happening? It's really weird. I guess we'll just move on. Just move on. And that we do with Otis. And we follow him into the kitchen. Otis finds the kitchen. He also finds John Laurinaitis, who is like, people power. Or people power. Or whatever. Pie to the face for him. Next scene we go. Asuka shouts at a janitor in Japanese, fights everybody off with a mop, then Dana Brooke slips on the floor. Comedy! I didn't do the clap. Comedy! That's the shitty way to do it. That was so bad. I had to lose monetization for that. Just comedy. You have to do the clap. Just to sell it. Anyway, the brawl and chase up the stairs continue. Women first, with Lacey Evans coming out ahead. And then the men, as Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles brawl into Vince McMahon's office in the number one spot of the match. Easily. They brawl into the office, with Vince McMahon's music and all interrupting them. He stands up and shouts, "Out!" The two bow, they show respect, and then they have a little talk, and then they go back and reorganise the chairs whilst politely then just walking backwards and just kindly shutting the door behind them. Vince McMahon sprays his hands, as he should do in these circumstances, and then just turns around to go back to work. It was doing the shot as if Vince McMahon was then going to say or do something, like an SNL quip just to end the skit. But no, we got the other SNL ending, where it just ends. It moves to that shot just lingered. They weren't meant to, like a Japanese RPG where sometimes the shot just lingers a little bit too long, and then you just cut to the thing next. But the bit after was generally funny, with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan just having the conversation. It's like AJ's like, "Oh, you were such a coward in there, Daniel Bryan." Like, well, you're the one who said we should go back and reorganise the chairs. Oh, yeah, I did. And then they fight. Let's get back to it. Like, a wee fun moment. Like, I'm sad that we've never gotten Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles together in WWE, unless I'm having complete brain forgetting. We've had their interactions when Daniel Bryan was a general manager, but now he's a wrestler, and we're not getting them. It's like, oh, that's a shame that they're fun together. They're generally just entertaining, having a lark. No fear, Baron Corbin's here to save the day. He smartly defeats everybody and just proclaims, "I'm going to the roof." And then he does. I may have remembered that differently in my head. Which then cuts to the roof, as I've written in all capital letters, because it's accompanied by guitar riffs and everything. A shot panning up the roof, showing us the helicopter shot. Well, it's the helicopter shot. I don't know if they actually did it with a helicopter. It's a bit over the top. But they had the long distance shots. It couldn't have been anything else. Asuka and Nia brawl through. Lacey Evans arrives shortly after, and they're our first three. It's now like a normal match, but on a roof, and with even more camera cuts. My God. The three fight back and forth with epic music playing in the background. The guitar riffs are built as they keep on going. Asuka's on top in the end. Corbin runs in, tries to grab his case, but Asuka's having none of it and kicks him to hell. Asuka pulls down the case. There was a bit of a back and forth between the three women, ending with Lacey Evans and Nia Jax climbing the ladder at the same time, and Nia Jax then pushed Lacey Evans, jumping off onto Nia Jax, and that's why Asuka was by herself. But yeah, she kicked the hell out of Baron Corbin, and then she just pulled on the case and won. The winner of the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, Asuka. Generally surprised there was no Shayna Baszler or no big spot for the women on the roof. They just did a little ladder match, and then Asuka won. Baron Corbin's spot got a laugh out of me, but yeah. And Asuka winning, no one's going to complain about that. Michael Cole says something, like his video game counterpart just awkwardly recorded his lines over a replay of Asuka winning. It was odd. the only bit of the match that didn't fit. Like, everything else was zany, weird, out there. If it was jarring, it fit the whole jarringness of the entire thing. This was just kind of a thing they would normally do. It's like a trope that found its way through into this totally not standard WWE thing, which is weird and it's odd and it's strange and it's kind of niche in its own way. But yeah, that was a production trait that it snuck its way in. I'm just like, no, you didn't need to do that. It was fine to continue with the stupid. You could have done just a zany thing to celebrate it in a different way. That was fine. Anyway, after that, Otis is here. He and Baron Corbin brawl in the ring. The Worm interrupts the guitar riffs. It was just a standard music thing that played. It wasn't some form of weird beat to go with the Worm. Like, no, it's just a stock song. We then switched back to the guitar riff when he got attacked. So, okay then. Black was the one who made his entrance and kicked him right down. Mysterio next for some ladder chasing and seemingly increasing ladder cuts. Like, seriously, they've been mad for this final bit. But my train of thought completely cut off because that's when Rey Mysterio gets chucked off the roof by Baron Corbin. Then Aleister Black as well. Are they both dead? Like, a stock thud sound accompanies their death. At least give them the Wilhelm scream. Like, no, just you watch them get chucked off and then like, boom. Just a stock Adobe Premiere sound. It's just like, okay then, did they Google royalty-free thud sound and just take that and put it in? It was weird. At least give me the Wilhelm. If you're chucking somebody off the roof, give me the Wilhelm. Just, if you don't know what that is, that's the stock scream you get in not every single movie, but it's the stock scream you hear in movies. You're like, ah! At least give me that. You've chucked somebody off the roof. Yeah, but on Monday Night Raw, they did set up people getting murdered, where AJ Styles said he was going to throw either Rey Mysterio or Aleister Black off the roof. Turns out Baron Corbin had chucked them both off the roof. Phrasing. Chucked them both off the roof. So they're gone. Yeah, the four remaining lads fight in the ring. Styles and Corbin, the two last standing to climb. Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles were on the ladder at some point. I was like, oh, exciting. But no, they went with Corbin and AJ Styles in the end. They both pull the briefcase down at the same time and they're bickering atop the ring. Top of the ladder, sorry. In came Elias with the guitar, smashing it right into the back of Baron Corbin. And in his fall, Corbin yanked it out of AJ's possession, then dropped it, and Otis catches the briefcase. Otis wins and is Mr. Money in the Bank. He actually wins. He's holding it above his head. Michael Cole closes this out at 2 hours and 24 minutes. Time-wise, how lovely. Compactness of the match, how lovely. Both Michael Coleman's a little bit jarring. The last one, not quite as much, because obviously it's the end of the show. It makes a little bit more sense. The Asuka one was why are they showing replays? It's really weird. And I guess it kind of fits with the weirdness of it all, but not in the right way, like everything else kind of did. Like with a lot of the comedy bits, like, oh, that was a bit off, a bit strange. But then this entire match is. So I don't really care. Michael Cole thing was, this is normal production trait that snuck its way in. As you can tell by my voice, didn't really care. I enjoyed the thing. I've gone on about it for 15 minutes straight without really taking a breath. I generally enjoyed this Money in the Bank ladder match. If you can call it that. It was a pre-recorded matter. Well, before it started, my predictions were, like, I really wanted something that was a mixture between the Raid and Rat Race, where you got your brawls happening, and Daniel Bryan kind of brought that strong, and Aleister Black as well, like the strong kicks and the actual fighting to it. Then there's hijinks galore as people kind of trip over each other to try and get up, which also happened, to be fair. But for me, the slightly disappointment, I guess, in a way, would be the more comedic hijinks, where they mostly came from surprise bits or cameos or, I guess, the record scratch stuff. WWE seems to be really fond of the record scratch humour. Like, you're doing your thing, and then you get that, and then person's like, what are you doing? Oh, you're so stupid. Why are you doing that? God. And then you cut back and off you go. Like, they're massive fans of that humour. Whilst with me, I don't know. Personally, I was really hyped it's an idea I came up with myself. It's my own fault. But when Asuka got into the elevator, I was like, yes, I'm for that, just because my idea also involved the elevator. They've done something different. Asuka dancing made me laugh, so no complaints. I would have really liked Baron Corbin at some point to get in the elevator and get stuck in there in some situation. That then messes up the ending a bit, but he can come in at later at the end and seem to steal it after he somehow gets out of the elevator just in time to be involved in the ending. But I really, really, in my head, I was laughing at them cutting back to Baron Corbin screaming, "Why?" whilst getting stuck in the elevator. I don't know if that turns it to pure comedy, because they were seemingly doing record scratch stuff and then going back to serious battle music. Serious competition. So, yeah. Personally, I am a bigger fan when he just lean into the comedy. And those moments I really enjoyed when it was serious battle music. Maybe not quite as much, but still, this was enjoyable fun. I'm not really going to critique it that much. I enjoyed the thing. Biggest con just being the replay thing with Michael Cole. That's about it. But yeah, I enjoyed the match. Yeah. Oh, I've not said where you can tweet at me. I normally do that at the start instead of sending you messages. You can tweet me at the damn implicat. That's damn as in damn. You can hit me up. That's such a stupid way to do my Twitter handle. I need to find a new one. But that was the Money in the Bank match. Silly fun. I guess it's the best way to explain it. It's just in terms of watching WWE as well. For the rest of the show, especially, I just had this really strong feeling that the pay-per-views work when they just go straight into matches that are seeming to building to something, and they build up that main event as well. It seems to work. But when they do the normal Monday Night Raw or SmackDown kind of pattern of a show, and you've got your promos, and then you've got your plugs for the stuff with the commentators, and it's all scripted in the same amount of manner, and the production's very similar in a way, the way that the show plays out. They've made minor production tweaks which really help, like turning the camera to the stage, that's a big one. It's just little quirks and things. But the shows don't feel like they matter, they feel skippable. The good news is the pay-per-views are not the same. I generally enjoyed WrestleMania. This was a test for me. Generally enjoyed it. And they made it shy of 2.5 hours. That's a major point. Just shy of 2.5 hours. It was compact. It didn't outstay its welcome. It was shorter than Raw. Or it was about the same length as Raw if you take out the adverts. That tells you something. The pay-per-view was way more compact and just worked for me. It flew by. Even if you didn't really care about the stuff before Money in the Bank, or even the Money in the Bank match itself, it wasn't going on for ages, and it didn't punish you. So, that's a positive. Anyway, the other matches I'm going to talk about, I was going to talk about them in order, but I guess I'll go from bottom up, because in terms of the matches I want to talk about, it goes in that order anyway. So, the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. I've not checked Spreaker to see what's going on there. I never bloody check Spreaker. See what's going on. I need to remember to do that. Anyway, the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre versus... I can't say WWE. As I said, physically, I'm knackered. I've done so much today, but you don't care. Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, your top-notch wrestling venture of the night. The final stop before the shenanigans were let loose. Seth Rollins finally has his new theme. A tad disappointed it didn't play off the Burn It Down stuff at all. I don't just mean the Burn It Down chant. I mean, the rhythm of the music or the notes being played didn't seem to have any relevance to his previous song. And I personally like that, when somebody gets an awesome heel theme. I love that. It's the awesome heel theme. I'm a massive fan of that. Seth Rollins just got... he got a theme which 100% fits his character. It's more of a little personal gripe where I would have tried to create something that at least played off his last thing. But... it fits his character. So it's still a perfect fit. No complaints. Whilst Drew absolutely feels the champion, the man's really cemented himself since WrestleMania. Hell, since the Rumble, really, but WrestleMania was the crowning moment, and from Raw afterwards, he's really cemented himself as the champion. He feels like he's slotted into that pace perfectly. A nice building world title match, this one. Did a great job of making it feel like a big deal. A nice feeling, given we didn't really get any title matches like this one at WrestleMania. A great pace setter of a defense for the champion. momentum ebb and flowing as each opponent kept finding ways to swing back into play. McIntyre going for his big signature moves proved to give the Messiah an in. Rollins climbing to display his vintage flash became his fall. Both lads realising they had to up their offense before they could hit those big moves on each other, both attempting to hit that big strike. Yeah. I was going to add another comment, but I've pretty much just said everything. Really, I really liked the story of this match. I thought that it was, for me, the number one thing as well is, did it grab my attention and did it build well? The answer was yes. It felt like it had the gravitas of a World Championship match, which is really important. In the momentum of it, the biggest swing appeared to be an awesome spot in the corner where Drew was caught upside down. What's it called? I wanted to say the spider's web, but that's not right. But when you got your legs dangling upside down, and Drew McIntyre normally goes for that thing where he sits back up and hits a German suplex. But Seth Rollins had his foot standing on the Scott's knee, so he couldn't do that. The champ managed to power through and knock Seth Rollins back, and then absolutely launched the man with a mighty German suplex, sending his opponent flying overhead. That was an insane spot. McIntyre then immediately went for the Claymore, continuing the pattern of the match, and he paid for it. Met with a super kick and a stomp soon after. That call nearly cost him the match. But Rollins doing the same thing and attempting a quick second stomp. A quick second stomp had him rocked with a Glasgow kiss and turned inside out by a Claymore. The champion retained. And this was a great match. It built really well. It's the kind of match where I reckon those final 5 minutes get an amazing reaction from a live crowd. Maybe the section just before it plays out a little bit longer. It did hit a nice string where when they both seemed to realise we need to hit more stuff first before we go for those signature big moves. And Seth Rollins like the suplex of the top rope into the Falcon Arrow and all that sort of stuff as well. Like, both men were upping the ante, realising they had to do something. But they were both then trying to go for the kill. And that kill shot, it was like from Date Night, that's the movie, where they turned the gun sideways and then they're like, oh my god, no, the kill shot. It's like that was happening. But obviously both guys then just countered the kill shot. It's like the other person started to turn the gun sideways and it was immediately read what was going to happen. So it just stopped them. That was a repeating kind of reaction throughout the match. And I liked it. It means it's a pattern you see quite often in New Japan, where they realise after you up the ante, after just going for the move works, so they try something else and then go for the move, and that's obviously still not working. So then it's a big moment which then swings it back. Also, when I said McIntyre just survived, Seth Rollins did hit the curb stomp and he did just kick out. So you got to see the strength of McIntyre as well. But really, it was mostly cemented, not just by him winning, but I really dug the moment after the match where Drew McIntyre got back in the ring and demanded respect from Seth Rollins, asking him to show he's a man and shake the champion's hand. Like, I really like that. It says a hell of a lot about the McIntyre character as a champion. Like, an awesome addition to making his character feel like a dominant figure, like in both in ring and out of the ring as well. And Rollins' face during this was great too. Like, totally got over how pissed off he was, as well as just submitting into respect, or essentially submitting into respect. I really, really dug that. Awesome moment, and they did an amazing job of, again, cementing Drew McIntyre, I guess, in terms of like Seth Rollins' whole thing, as well as being the locker room leader. Drew McIntyre kind of did a thing where he shows he actually is that, while Seth Rollins talks about being it. He's ready to step up to the plate, but Drew McIntyre showed Seth Rollins that, no, I am ready for this position. And it fit the story. I loved it. It was great. Talking about fitting the story, the Universal Championship between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt was before this, with the VTR starting with "It's story time." I've not watched Smackers since WrestleMania, so watching the pre-match VTR for me was this fun delight. Like, it appears that there's a decent little story that's played off here, playing off Strowman's stint in the Wyatt family as the Black Sheep. I don't know if it was ever called the Black Sheep. I can't remember, but he had the Black Sheep mask. Like, Bray Wyatt is pure sports entertainment nonsense. Not as much as the Money in the Bank match. he's pure sports entertainment, and I love it. Like, his entire demeanour just draws me in. But arguably, I'm more into him as a character when he's not the Fiend. Like, the story of this match, the big, strong, serious muscle man versus the pure character in Bray Wyatt. If anything, it's Strowman's own charge and momentum that causes him harm. Whilst Wyatt is apologising after feeling he had to elevate his offense, like not really keeping on top of the big man, which obviously keeps then giving the champion another in. They just rinse and repeat that pattern for a little while. And of course, Bray Wyatt was fantastic in this, I thought. Like, just as good as he's been with his character each time, it just feels like he's got a better idea of what each version of him is each time we see him. And then obviously, and so do we. Also in terms of the moveset as well, there was like a nice little faster pace for the friendlier version of Bray Wyatt with a tornado DDT off the second rope but before going into the Sister Abigail, rather than just like you snap them up into Sister Abigail, because obviously that's more, I guess, heelish and snappy in a way, whilst doing the tornado DDT is just a bit more flashy. So it fits the babyface side a little bit more. But the big spot of the match was right at the end, with Braun Strowman having been knocked outside the ring by Bray Wyatt. Strowman then rose up wearing the black sheep mask, and it turns out it was to trick Wyatt into thinking his methods had worked. Like a nice wrinkle to the chapter we're used to reading. The babyface outsmarting the heel. I mean, technically the roles were kind of reversed, with Big Muscle Man versus charismatic character. They've reversed somewhat, but it really still worked. Like, what Bray Wyatt was more focused on winning his game than the match. Strowman figured that out. It finally happened. The era of the not dumb baby faces. Like Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman, they feel so fresh and kind of like a revelation because they're not stupid. Because they don't come across as idiots. And that's how we've gotten used to WWE, like, booking their baby faces. You get cowardly heels and stupid baby faces who are constantly tricked. But in this era, both champions are not getting tricked. Drew McIntyre especially has done an amazing job of just not falling for anything. And that really paints him as a badass. Braun Strowman here showing he's more than the muscle. Like, he figures out Bray Wyatt as a person, and then he's the one who wins out in the end, outsmarting the master manipulator. It's a phrase often used in WWE. But yes, an enjoyable shorter romp, which was pure character from Bray Wyatt and pure I'm monster smash from Braun Strowman until he has his smart moment. After the match, though, this then sets up the next thing of, assumably, Braun Strowman versus The Fiend at, I want to say, Extreme Rules. They advertised it during the match, but I was going mental with notes to try to write stuff down, and I've got no idea what the pay-per-view actually was. I saw red and black, which is normally Extreme Rules, so I've put that one down. But yeah, the next bit to set that up, where Bray Wyatt is then looking on at Braun Strowman, and the face of The Fiend then flashes on the screen as he's looking at Braun Strowman, obviously to tell us that this has pissed off Bray Wyatt. Braun Strowman's crossed a line, and the last thing you want to do is anger The Fiend. And that's what Braun Strowman has done. So even though Bray Wyatt may not be able to defeat Braun Strowman, The Fiend is an entirely different beast. And I like that. Depth to what's going on. And then the match before that. I've not done a card in reverse order before. It feels weird. The Smackers Women's Championship. Bayley joined by All in Red Sasha Banks versus Tamina. The story of trying to make a competitor feel like a threat, but they never were. They were never going to win. So in tow, I never bought it. Like Bayley and Sasha's cheeky jibber jabber antics were fun enough. Bayley's really, for me, in this match, Bayley really came across as a champion that's got it all together. Like, the whole package is working, like clicking on all cylinders. A nice long-term story building between her and Sasha as well really helps. Makes her feel like a fully fledged character as you're watching that play out. It's like, it is possible that I can dig what's being built up long-term whilst also not really being able to get into the match that's happening right in front of me. It's what happens when you don't really buy a challenger. It doesn't stop the slow unravel for that bigger story from being great, or for you still to enjoy that bigger story, even if you're not super digging Challenger of the Month. Yeah, so that's the story for me. Most of the match I kind of just zoned out, but I did enjoy what was being built kind of around it. The finish came after Tamina was on top, dominating the match at this portion. She caught Bayley with a Samoan drop, but Banks interrupted her before the pin could be scored. Tamina chased her around the ring and back in, and as she then catches up with her and grabs her, Bayley attempts to capitalise, but Tamina was ready and lifted her up onto the shoulders for another drop, and that's when Bayley, however, was able to roll out and pin both of Tamina's shoulders down to the mat and score a quick crucifix pin for the win. Bayley retains. Long may Sasha and Bayley's story play out. Not everyone on my Twitter feed seemed to be as joyous, but when I don't watch WWE every week, the pay-per-view, I actually enjoy these characters. I've said it before and I'll say it again. WWE is better the less you watch it, and I felt that really strongly in this match, where I was just enjoying seeing the characters again that I hadn't really seen since WrestleMania, and the story seemed to be building at a nice pace from pay-per-view to pay-per-view, and I genuinely enjoyed seeing this next chapter. Where in the interview beforehand, you had it kind of brought up and mentioned with Bayley, but like, no, what are you saying? Of course we're not. This is all just you people, you sheep. We're just putting stuff out there that's just not true. And then you watch the match play out, and Sasha Banks saves the match. Bayley essentially loses the match, but she's saved by Sasha Banks. And when you see that, with the bit that came before the match, you know what's coming next. That Sasha Banks promo, where she says the number of times I saved your title reign, or number of matches that you wouldn't have won if it weren't for me. Like, those lines are coming, and these matches are setting that up. It won't feel random. It won't be a stock line, because there's actually credence to it. There's actually weight to what she's saying, and I generally enjoyed that. I'm just really realising that 37 minutes in, I've not had a drink of water. Yeah, I'm allowed to pause for a drink. I've been moving heavy boxes out of lofts and things all day. I've used so much energy. During the day I crashed twice and needed to recoup. So the fact I'm up for this is a miracle. And why I'm also like so ecstatic that it's ended at like 2:30, so I can actually read my notes whilst doing this. It's awesome. Yeah. But yes, I'm really enjoying watching Bayley and Sasha Banks play out, with the asterisk that I'm not watching SmackDown. But I am enjoying, like, from pay-per-view to pay-per-view. It's pacing seemingly really well, and I'm enjoying it in that way. Again, the less WWE that you watch, the more you enjoy it. And this pay-per-view was a blast, and these pre-matches I didn't really feel tied by any characters or people remaining champion. Like, no, story's building relatively nicely and slowly for me. Again, I don't see them every single week, but from pay-per-view to pay-per-view, nicely paced kind of jump from one to the next. It felt natural and right. The second match of the night, R-Truth versus Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley won. Okay, on to the next match. The Smackers Tag Team Championships, the Fatal 4-Way tag match. I don't know if that's right. 4-Way dance, that's not a thing. New Day versus Miz and Morrison versus Lucha House Party versus the Forgotten Sons, who are called up now. That's cool. Cool for them. They are... Forgotten Sons is one of the most, for me, ironic names, purely because I forget who's in the group. I forget their name very, very often. They're just kind of bland. I'll forget what their music is. Like, if I'm trying to remember what the music of an act is, I sometimes just forget what Forgotten Sons' music is. Everything about them, I just forget about. Sure, there could be a solid kind of unit. Sure, I didn't actually mind Gunner in TNA. Jackson Viker is over here. And I will say, from the group, I like the idea of Jackson Viker kind of being like a ringside manager. And when he gets into the ring, it's a big moment. You build up to that. That makes them different, to have that dynamic. That's something no other group has. And they are more of the kind of ugly brawlers, which works a hell of a lot better on the main roster than it does on NXT. So they've got that going for them. And then in this kind of madness match, they can fit in and it will be fine, in a way. It's when you then have to elevate them and they get kind of more on top. Personally, that's when I start to feature Riker or build to Riker or something, just to give that extra dimension, or at least showcase that it's there, put a spotlight on it. Because now it's obviously people on the internet will notice it, but in the product it's not had a light shine upon it. It's not they've not showcased directly. Look how much depth there actually is to this act. It can work, but it was a fast-paced opener to kick off the show. No team really holding momentum before getting reversed or another team jumped in. Miz and Morrison, the Opportunists, Lucha House Party, the injectors of pace and flippy stuff, Forgotten Sons, the ugly brawlers, and New Day, our against the odds heroes/saviors/champions, wearing Xavier Woods' tribute gear, I guess in a way. They had a Get Well Soon card. Big E's outfit had a big Get Well Soon card on it, and they were numbers all over the different parts of the New Day gear. He had the up, down, down logo as well, and the rainbow going across. Yes, great stuff. There was a cool spot which kind of showcased every team's kind of point in the match, where Big E was fighting against the numbers, only then for Forgotten Sons to hit their double stomp finisher on him. After that, Miz and Morrison came in to chuck the Memorable Men out for their own quick score. Big E kicked out, but... Or did... Well, no, because I remember Miz and Morrison hit Starship Pain, and it was like, oh crap, are they actually going to win here? And then in came Lucha House Party quickly to save the day. Like, every team was involved in that, and every team showed off their addition to the match. Just like, that's a nice little kind of coming together bit there. Yeah, New Day won the match after the chaos left everybody on the outside. Riker, in the middle of it, was ejected for doing nothing. Injustice! Kingston swung in with a Trouble in Paradise, and Big E showed his awesome strength for the big ending. If I'm right, they were both on Lucha House Party members. The champions retain after Big E pinned Grand Metalik. I've already forgotten what happened in the majority of this match, but it was fun. And really, that's all that matters. Enjoyable enough. Again, I busted my ass today. My energy levels are 0. It's a miracle I'm awake, so I forgot what happened in the first match of the night. And my notes weren't that much better. But it was fun. I did enjoy it. And that's like for an opener, getting you into the pay-per-view. Like, come the end of it, you will hope it's the main event I remember more about than it is like the very first match of the show, if you got to make a choice. And that's what this pay-per-view was. It kind of built up in how much it built well, actually. You had your entertaining, fun, but ultimately not that memorable opening match. But does it have to be memorable if it's fun and gets you into the show? I personally think no, that's fine. Standard 2.5-star match to get you into the show, which it's got enough energy. The quality doesn't really matter. It got me into the show. They then packed it with filler afterwards, and I remember putting out on Twitter, like, it's rather nice of WWE to give me like the time to catch up with my notes. Like, that's very, very considerate of you. I mean, I have caught up now. You've given me like 15 minutes. I have caught up, so if you wouldn't mind getting on with it, that would help. Like, the R-Truth Black Panther MVP Bobby Lashley match was just, well, this is out of nowhere and seemingly to fill some time. And then there's I think they did like a promo package after there, like, look how good we are during this situation. Then there was a promo package, I think, for a network thing, then to Baron Corbin. Then you go to Bayley Sasha match, and they do an interview beforehand. So even though the interview did lead into the match and did carry on the story they're telling with those two really well, it came after a bulk of filler, and that itself felt like more filler when they started the interview, just because of what came beforehand. Like, just in terms of show pacing, they would want me to pay attention to that interview, but because of what came before, my immediate reaction was, ugh, more filler. Oh, I'm feeling it. Like, in that gap, from after match 1 to before match 3 started, there was just this gap of, oh, this feels like filler. So, yeah. But then from the SmackDown Women's match, it built really nicely. The entire card built well all the way to Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. And I was saying this during the Money in the Bank match, but I thought Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins did a really good job of making their match have gravitas and feel like this was an important match. Meaning if this was a different card, it's a good example for Extreme Rules, where if this was a different card, then you could have easily main evented the pay-per-view with a match like that. With no qualms from me. I would have generally enjoyed it. would have worked perfectly fine as a treat because it was all built really well. It has to be to that quality, obviously. It's got to be something about it. But that really, really helped. Built it up nicely. Extreme Rules is next. Just to kind of like look... yeah, of course, there's the main event. Just to quickly just note on before I move on to the next pay-per-view. Just the main event itself was just enjoyable, silly, fun, kind of like the AJ Undertaker match, where it's silly fun, but they also play it seriously in parts as well. And it's weird. It's like it's better than WWE's like past stuff before this year, where they're not as afraid to lean into the silly kind of notions of it, but also there's seemingly this tendency to no, but we've still got to make it serious, like super serious and grounded it and things. Where if you're leaning into silly, why not go more full on comedy? Like the phrase in my head again was the Raid meets Rat Race, and we got brawling thing with the odd SNL skit, I guess in a way. So yeah. But anyway, so next up will be Extreme Rules, which gives them another opportunity to do one of these cinematic pre-recorded main events. I don't know if this is going to be a continued common occurrence, given the state of everything, where they're going to do pre-recorded stuff for all of the main events to kind of give them that separate gravitas. Again, the Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins match for me was a really good proof of concept that you don't need to do that extra stuff. But if the entire show, the entire pay-per-view is in that one performance center location and you never leave it, I don't know if that might create just that a little bit of a feeling where you are just a bit like, right, okay. And of course, between now and as we've learned really from WrestleMania to Money in the Bank, it's not really that big amount of time, like the gap between the two. But given what's happening in the world, it feels like a lifetime. So much can change within that period. And in terms of what comes next as well, who knows what state things are going to be in. What state WWE are going to be in. Like literally, which American state are they going to be filming in? Are they... What's going to happen? Because of course as well, in terms of like, the reopenings only happened recently. It takes 2 to 3 weeks for the effects to show itself. Who knows what happens when those effects start showing themselves, positive or negative? Who knows what happens? I mean, we can predict it. Over here in Europe, we're like, what are you doing? I can't even... It's such a massive society difference that it's like the reasons for the reopenings happening, the reasons for WWE continuing, they obviously... It's difficult for me to truly properly understand. I know those reasons, the society difference reasons exist. I can acknowledge that, and I can acknowledge that I don't properly understand. I just know they exist. But they directly feed into WWE and how they are operating. They continue to operate, how they continue to operate. By Extreme Rules, who knows what everything's going to be in? It's a weird one, where I can selfishly say I enjoyed Money in the Bank, whilst also saying I'm against the way that it was continuing. But I'm also acknowledging that it's a completely different society away from mine, and I am still judging it by my eyes for my own society. So it's not. I'm not really given. I can't really not have a bias, just because of where I'm from and the kind of world I'm in currently. So yeah, that's a kind of note to end on. Just on yes, Extreme Rules is coming. Who knows what the state will be? I don't know when they're recording either. Like Money in the Bank, for me it still makes a lot of sense to pre-record it just in case. I think that's the point I'm trying to get to. If they are going to record this show, it would be wise to, like Money in the Bank, at least, especially your main event, pre-record it ahead of time, because who knows where things will be in 3 weeks, be it better or worse. Makes sense. So that's why I'm predicting more cinematic stuff like that. Build up the show, give yourself an opportunity to do it. You may have even built up to an AJ Styles Undertaker casket match with what happened in the Money in the Bank ladder match. It's just a little moment with AJ Styles like, no, no. Paid off that a bit. Anyway, this is 50 minutes into the show. It is now 3:35 my time, so it is getting to the point where my eyes are getting blurry. But thank you to everybody who listens all the way through to this nonsense. It's not the longest Aftershock there's ever been, but I got to have a little bit of a giggle and a bit of a silly, and now I get to drink water and go to sleep. I bloody need this sleep. I'm so tired. In terms of LOPR Aftershock on Laws of Pain Radio, was I hit the Spreaker wall. Here on YouTube, nothing changes, so you don't care. With the feed that goes out in podcast versions, we are migrating from Spreaker to Red Circle, so there is a bit of a jar and a change as well. With that comes that the podcast version will now not be going out live. It will go out like immediately after this is finished. So again, it's not a massive change, I guess, because the YouTube version will still be live, so you'll still be able to listen to that version. So yeah. And most people do listen on YouTube, so not much changes for most people who listen. I could have, to be fair, just ended the YouTube version, then spoke on the podcast one afterwards. But no, I said it live on everything for some reason. Anyway, I'll be back on Thursday myself with my own show, talking about the past week of the wrestling that's happened. And normally, news breaks on a Thursday, and I'm then talking about it within like an hour of that taking place, and I'm just clicking to find all the shows I need to plug. Right, so on Tuesday we've got Kingdom of Honor with Jaman and Jeff talking about Ring of Honor, New Japan, all of that stuff. On Thursday it's me. We've also got All Night Long Wrestling Podcast that drops either Wednesday and Thursday as well, which is up on the Lords of Pain YouTube channel. Fridays is WWF The Legacy Series. I need to bring that over to the YouTube page as well. I want to do a full-on edit, but the shows are so long. It's the thing. Quality deserves a proper edit, but I'd need a month to edit each episode. And to be fair, because it's a past thing, I could do that. It takes a long time, though. I don't have that time right now. Saturdays is reserved for our All Elite Wrestling stuff. Oh, also, I'm an idiot. Live after Dynamite every single week, we've got our AEW post-show, Dynamite After Dark, with Jaman and Jeff. Live immediately after the show talking about that. Saturdays is reserved for our All Elite Wrestling pay-per-views. This month we've got Double or Nothing coming up. Sundays is this Aftershock reserved for thingy WWE pay-per-views. Oh, I'm going. Thank you for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please hitting a like, hitting a subscribe, posting a comment that just says good, thumbs up, or just exclamation mark. You don't need to put an emoji in. I'm not that evil. Yeah, it means a lot. Interaction means a lot right now. So yes, thank you to everybody who does do random stuff like that. I know I started that by accident, and I started getting just random comments of just random love. Good. It's already happened on past things. Like, it's my own fault. It happens. Anyway, I'll be back on Thursday. Thank you for listening. We're back for Extreme Rules as well to cover all of that nonsense. With that, I stop rambling and I bid you adieu. Adios.